It is 5 o'clock. We will go ahead and begin this meeting of the Kokomo City Board of Zoning Appeals. I would ask if you have a cell phone to please turn that to silent. And then I invite you to stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to say thanks to the board. We have a full board here this evening. I know this is a crazy busy time of year, so thank you all for making this a priority. Our first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the Tuesday, November 1st, 2022.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed to that? All right. Mr. Sheehan, our first case, P 20-V-22.
Yes, petition of Dwyer Boulevard Holdings LLC, Amanda Carr, requesting the variance of 75% to section 6.48E, parking in front of a primary structure. This is in the C2 zone at 2501 East Boulevard.
Have a motion on this case?
I'll move that we approve case number P 20-V-22 and adopt the findings of the petitioner and those of the board and make those findings part of the record.
Second.
Thank you both. Have any board members had any ex parte communication regarding this case?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. If you'll go ahead and state your name and address for the record and tell us what brings you here.
Wyatt Johnson, 555 Market Road. I'm the land surveyor and civil engineer that has been trying to design this site. And my client would like to build a convenience store and gas station at the southeast corner of Goyer and Boulevard. The zoning ordinance requires one parking space per 250 square feet of building area. The proposed building is 6,250 square feet, of building area, which would require 25 parking spaces. We have proposed 31. The ordinance further allows only 25% of those required spaces to be in the front yard. And the front yard is defined as everything in front of the front wall of the building, and that front wall is extended to the sidelines. 25% of the 25 required spaces is 6 1/4 spaces, which I interpret, because of the way that requirement is written, to be 6, not 7 spaces. I think staff agrees with that. Staff also agrees that we can count 2 spaces for each dispenser or pump, and we have 10 dispensers proposed. So that would be 20 spaces. There'd be 2 dispensers per island. I asked for a variance to allow all 31 parking spaces to be in the front yard, and I know that that probably will not be approved, but I didn't want to ask for, say, 20 and later find out that you would approve 25. So I thought I'd start at the top and let you whittle it down. My client has indicated that she will do her best to have a project while still complying with whatever your decision would be. To make your finding clear, I would ask that it be, if you grant any kind of variance, that it be to allow some percentage other than 25% of the required parking to be in the front yard. We had a little bit of a confusion with staff because the way the advertisement was going to be written was for a 75% reduction, and I didn't really know what that meant. So I thought it'd be better to just say we move to allow X percent, where there's 25 or more, in the front yard. And hopefully with that idea in mind, you can keep in mind that there are 2 pumps per island, which means 4 spaces per island. And if we only were allowed 6 spaces, there would be an island and a half, and I don't know whether that would be practical or not. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions from the board at this time?
You say on this drawing here where those parking spots, that's where the gas pumps are gonna be?
Can I look at your drawing? Make sure I answer that.
These here?
Yes.
That's 20 spaces there. Where are the rest of them gonna go?
In front of the building. Originally, they were going to face into the building from the north.
So with this rendering, the pumps are to the north,
Right.
and it shows some parking, a handful of parking spaces to the east. Are those still proposed? That includes,
I need to-
looks like a couple handicap parking spots?
Yeah. Can I look at that again?
Absolutely. Here to the east.
5 spots there.
Yeah, I should have known what the requirement was when we started the design, but I didn't. So I originally had spaces on the north side of the building facing the building. And I was trying to mess around with the layout to see if we could come up with a plan that would work and meet the ordinance. So I moved those to the east side of the building. So depending on what your finding would be, those parking spaces would be on the east side of the building.
Okay. And then it looks like on the south side of the proposed building, is there a drive-through?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, other questions from the board? Okay. Mr. Johnson, would you go ahead and read your findings of fact?
Sure. The approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because all uses of this type have parking in the front yard, and this property is properly zoned for this use. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because across the street to the northwest is a gas convenience store operating in the same manner as the proposed use. Further, the church building directly north of the proposed use faces the existing gas convenience store to the east. And the large parking lot east of the church building is mostly what faces the proposed use. The south and east adjoiners are blocked by vegetation. The west adjoiner has 2 front yards and 100% of their parking is in the front. The strict application of the terms of this zoning ordinance will result in a practical difficulty. This situation shall not be self-imposed nor be based on a perceived reduction of or restriction of economic gain. Due to the normal operation of such a store, a drive-up window is always desirable. The drive-up window is currently proposed on the rear of the building, and due to the 931 overlay district cannot be in the front yard. This makes this lot almost impossible to develop in a competitive way compared to other convenience stores in existence.
Okay. Thank you. Just a question for the secretary. Do you have a copy? Because his final point there, the wording was different than the copy I have in front of me. Do you have a copy of those findings?
She doesn't. I just changed it, but I can give her this
Yeah,
copy.
so if you just make sure that she gets a copy for the, for our official records, that'd be great. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Sheeline, if you'll hit us with the staff findings?
Yes, staff findings for case P20V22, the approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The requested variance in order to place 100% of parking in front of the primary structure will not create any safety hazards or harm the general welfare of the community. The proposal will not impede on any property lines or recorded easements and will not block vision. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Granting this variance will not impact neighboring properties, as the parking area will be fully contained on the subject property. This development will have a positive impact on the area, as it will infill a currently vacant lot with a new and useful business. The strict application of the terms of this zoning ordinance will result in a practical difficulty. This situation shall not be self-imposed, nor be based on a perceived reduction of or restriction of economic gain. The petitioners face a practical difficulty due to the property being a corner lot and having 2 front yards. This heavily reduces the area in which parking may be permitted. The petitioners have also planned a drive-through in order to remain competitive with similar businesses, and this further reduces the amount of parking area available in the side or rear yard.
Okay, thank you. We've heard the petitioner's findings and the staff findings. Do any board members have any questions at this point? Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard regarding this case? Mr. Johnson, anything you'd like to add? No. Okay, thank you. So we do have, or Mr. Sheeline, anything from you?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
No. All right. We have a motion and a second for the approval of case P 20-V-22. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is case P 21-V-22.
Yes, the petitioner Cynthia Kavanaugh requested a variance of 2 feet to section 6.16 AC fence height in an R1 zone. This is at 1620 Zartman Road.
I have a motion on this case.
I move that we approve case number P 21-V-22 and adopt the findings of the petitioner as those of the board and make those findings part of the record.
Second.
Thank you both. Do any board members have any ex parte communication with this one?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. So would the petitioner or whoever's representing this case step to the microphone, give us your name and address, and tell us what's happening?
Okay. Good evening. I'm Cynthia Kavanaugh, and I'm with my husband, Michael, and we live at 1620 Zartman Road.
And so tell us, like, just what brings you here tonight? If
Okay.
someone were to say, so what are you going up there for?
The reason we're here is that we live in Westbrook subdivision, and we now can put up fences, and so we were looking into how we would like to put a fence around our yard. And one of the things is that on the best part of our yard for dogs and kids is on the east side. Well, we have an unusual neighbor in our neighborhood, is that they actually have their bedroom windows. I didn't put it here, but I can add it. Bedroom window is on the west side of their house, but on our east side of the yard. So we had planned to have a 4-foot-tall chain link fence along the east side on our property line. And then because we have an easement, we could put a second fence that will be 6 feet west of the property line fence, and we would like it to be, considering 8 feet tall between the back property line, and then stop at the corner, southeast corner of our house, and then we would continue if we wanted to with just 6 feet to the front of our yard. And one of the use of the fence would keep our dogs, which are pretty tall, they can jump a 6-foot fence. And also, we now have small children again in our family. And then we felt that an 8-foot fence would keep balls from bouncing over into the neighbor's yard. Also, as a family, we still like to play volleyball, and we hit golf balls around the yard, etc. So, and as I said in the first part, that the 8-foot fence will be 6 feet west of our property line fence. So that should aid in keeping things out of the neighbor's yard. And then the last part is the ordinance will result in a difficulty because it would allow dogs and children to possibly intrude on the elderly neighbor's property. And also keeping in mind that their bedroom windows are also on that side.
Okay, so, question, so I'm picturing, when I'm looking at your house from Zartman, on the right-hand side, the east side, you've got a chain link fence on the property line, and then 6 feet in, you would have an 8-foot fence is what you're asking?
Right.
What's the material of the 8-foot fence?
We probably would like, what is it, a white one? Are they plastic? I can't remember.
White vinyl, probably.
So the white vinyl?
Yes.
Not one you can see through,
Right.
okay? And then, so that would come from, it would go across your back property line?
Yes, it could, yes.
And then come along 6 feet in from your east property line and come to the front of the house?
Right.
Would it attach then to the corner of the house?
Yes, we would move that to the corner of the house.
Okay, and then you mentioned then 6 feet, is that continuing south from there?
Yes,
6 foot
if
tall
we needed to extend it, because we wanted it kind of like, we've got, what is that, a fire hydrant in our front yard, so we wanted to extend it a little bit past, the corner of our house.
Okay, so you're not talking like way out, you're talking just extend it a little bit?
Yeah,
to-
just extend it a little
Cosmetic.
bit, yes.
Yes,
And just so you'll know, if you do increase that fence past the front of the house, it can only be 4 foot.
Oh, okay, well, that's
Just so
fine.
you'll know.
Thank you.
Okay?
And then, so from the back property line, on the west side of the house, is the fence coming up, coming back to the south as well?
yes, eventually we would look to pull that to the south and then tie into near the front side of where our house is.
Okay.
And it'll be, it wouldn't be on the property line, it'll be inside of our property line, maybe 4 feet or so, just to have some extension, have a space between the west side of our house and the fence.
Okay.
At
Thank
the,
you.
at the back of your property, is it significantly lower? Do you go, is it downhill grade? Or-
Not significantly.
Should we step to the mic?
It's pretty flat back
It's
there.
pretty flat. It's not a big slope down.
Right. But we have a deck, and we were also thinking about putting trees behind the deck, so that leaves less room on the back side of our property.
May I make a quick request? Mr. Kavanaugh, are you able to come to the mic as well? And mostly because it's being recorded, so the mic can
Okay.
pick you up better, so.
Okay. 8-foot fence sounds good on paper. Okay, really does. But when you start to put it in there aesthetically to the neighborhood, if someone's, if your grade would, really drop, and you would have an 8-foot fence in the back, but that would be in line as it come forward to the front of your house, which would be the normal 6 foot, I could kind of go, I understand where you're coming from. Or if you was wanting just one particular part, I don't know, nobody ever asked us for a dog run before. But for that long of an 8-foot fence, I'm not really in favor of that. I don't like the idea. I would much rather you work within and have a nice white vinyl 6-foot fence and
Well, one of the things about the way our yard is that our property line, we're kind of like on a hump, so it is already about 1.5 feet higher on our property line, and it slopes down towards our house. So we were kind of looking at kind of keeping them even. So yes, we do have a slope. I apologize, when you asked me about a slope in the front, but the way our yard is, our property line has a hump, and then it comes down towards our house. So there is about 1.5 feet difference between that spot and the rest of our yard, on that side of the house.
And that's on the side that you're concerned
Yes,
about your neighbor?
the east side.
Okay. Okay.
others?
You understand my statement as far as the sloping and,
Right.
I would think if you've got a slope, if the highest part of your property, that could be a 6-foot fence. And as you go to the slope, then if you have to, at the end of that run, if you would have to make that 7.6 or whatever, but to just go 8 foot everywhere, I just don't think it's a good idea.
Any other questions from the board?
Was that fence
Before we
gonna
move
be
on?
just one like solid? It's not gonna be 6 and then 2 or 4 and 4? It was just one solid?
Yes.
She shared her findings, you didn't read those lines.
Yeah, she needs to read those into the record.
Okay. So Mrs. Kavanaugh, you shared the different reasons that you're wanting to put it up. But just so it's in officially in the record, do you have a copy of the findings of fact where you could start with the approval will not be injurious and read that line and then your reason? and then-
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. We plan to have a 4-foot-tall chain link fence along the east side property line. A second fence for privacy will be 6 feet west of the property line fence. The fence would be 8 feet tall between the back property line and stop in line with the southeast corner of the house, and only 6 feet, but I've been corrected, that 4 feet tall from the southeast corner going south. Number 2, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. The 8-foot fence will be used to keep tall dogs and children from annoying, intruding onto the neighbor's property when playing ball, etc. The 8-foot fence will be 6 feet west of the 4-foot chain link fence on the property line. 3, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in a practical difficulty. This situation shall not be self-imposed nor be based on a perceived reduction of or restriction of economic gain. The ordinance will result in a difficulty because it will allow dogs and children to possibly intrude on the elderly neighbor's property.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Sheline, the staff findings?
The staff findings for case P21V22, the approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The proposed 8-foot tall fence would not create any safety hazards for the surrounding community. It would help contain the petitioner's large dogs, which would help keep the community safe. The proposed fence will not impede on any setback, property lines, or easements. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Granting the requested variance should not impact neighboring properties, as the fence will be built several feet within the petitioner's property lines. The strict application of the terms of this zoning ordinance will result in a practical difficulty. This situation shall not be self-imposed nor be based on a perceived reduction of or restriction of economic gain. The petitioner faces a practical difficulty due to her dog's ability to scale a 6-foot fence. If the variance is not granted, the petitioner will not be able to safely house her pets.
Okay, thank you. Having heard the petitioner's case and then staff findings and petitioner's findings, any questions from the board?
What kind of dogs do you have?
They are my daughter's dogs, and they're visitors, and they are a mix of Saint Bernard and whatever the large poodle is.
And they can scale a 6-foot fence.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we already have a neighborhood dog that was a Saint Bernard, and he's the talk of the neighborhood because he would get out of a 6-foot fence and go visit the rest of the neighbors. So we've already been there.
Any other questions from the board? Anyone in the audience like to be heard on this case? Okay, anything you guys would like to add before we take it to a vote?
No.
All right, thank you for all your information. We do have a motion for the approval of and a second for the approval of case P21-V-22. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay, we have a split vote, so we'll have to do a roll call.
Roll call. Mr. Besser,
Nay.
Ms. Durham,
Nay.
Ms. Bishop,
Aye.
Mr. Myers,
Aye.
Mr. Jensen, there's a tie, you will have to vote.
Can I get back with you guys on this?
Nope,
Oh, aye.
it does get approved, vote 3-2.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any other cases to be heard this evening? Oh. Our next case on the agenda is case P 22-V-22.
Yes, this one's going to be real fun to read, so bear with me. The petition is Stellantis, Brian Schwing, requesting a variance of 57 feet to section 3.38, maximum building height, variance of 2 feet to section 6.17BA, fence height, variance of 2 feet to section 6.17BB, fence height, variance of 3 feet to section 6.17BC, fence height, variance to section 6.17 to incorporate barbed wire on the fence, variance of 60 trees to section 6.27C, lot plantings, variance of 110 trees to section 6.27F, foundation plantings, variance of 262 trees to section 6.27F, parking lot plantings, variance of 4 feet to section 6.31CB, detention of pond depth, variance of 4 feet to section 6.31C, maximum slope, and variance of 8 feet to section 6.33E, maximum pole height, variance of 75% to section 6.48E, parking in front yard, and variance of 28.5 feet to section 6.52GA, drive pavement width in an H1 zone. This is at 2724 north, 50 east.
Thank you. Do I have a motion on this case?
I move that we approve case P-22-V-22 and adopt the findings of the petitioner. Those of the board make these findings part of the record.
Second.
Thank you.
Before we get started, Mr. President, if you don't mind, I'd like to make a little statement that, you know, when we first got this and we looked at it, the first thing we realized very quickly was our landscaping ordinance was never written for something of this size. So we had to look at it extensively, and I want to thank everyone in this group, because you all worked very hard, I could tell, to match it the best you could with the ordinance that you had in front of you. So I thank you for your work on putting all this together.
Thank you. So whoever's the spokesperson on this case, if you'd step to the mic, give us your name and your address, and kind of fill us in.
Hello, my name is Rachel Smith. I'm with PEA Group. We're the civil engineers on the project. Address is 58105 Van Dyke in Washington Township, Michigan, 48094. And we are here for the Samsung Stellantis battery manufacturing plant. We have a rendering up on the screen to kind of give you an idea of what the site's going to look like. There are 13 variances that Greg just read through. Just in brief, the site is bordered on 4 sides by roadways, on the north by 300N, on the west by 50 East, on the east side by Toby Pike, and on the south will be the new 250N. There are 2 main buildings on the site and then several auxiliary buildings. The 2 larger buildings you can see on there are the only ones requesting the height variance. The other buildings will be below ordinance height. There are 2 main parking lots on the site, one on the east side and one on the west, as well as 2 large stormwater detention basins. And we're here to answer any questions on the variance or on the project. I have team members here from Stellantis, Albert Kahn, and Yates Construction.
Which one of the buildings is for the heights?
They both will be needing the variance.
Both of the big ones in the middle will be?
Yes.
On the retention pond, did you run out of room? Is that why you need basically you put all you could put there, now we got to go
Yeah,
deeper, quicker?
pretty much. And just based on the depth of the city's sewer, we couldn't get the elevations to work. So we worked with the city's engineering team on a solution, and this is the best that we came up with. It will have permanent water in it, which will help with the water quality for the stormwater before it exits the site, and it will have a restriction for a 100-year storm sewer restriction.
I don't know about the rest of the board. When I first looked at this, I went, wow, they're getting away with a lot of trees. But if you sit there and look at it, they're still putting an awful lot of trees. They're still going to be put on this property. So when you first look at it, it looks like you're cutting a lot. But when you look and see where it's at, there's a significant amount of, in my opinion, trees being put in. So that's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other comments at this point? I do appreciate Mr. Sheeline's comment at the beginning that, I mean, sometimes we have those cases that you don't see often, and that the ordinances, when they were written, didn't apply to, I mean.
It didn't foresee.
Yeah.
We've never seen a case like this ever, not just often, ever.
Right, right. Okay. So we go through these, have her read the findings?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll move to the findings of fact. Anyone need to order anything to eat before we get started? Call loved ones or? Okay, sorry. Sorry. I'll have you go ahead and read your findings.
Okay, I am regretting writing so much in the application here. All right, number one is the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The requested variances will not impact the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The project will be bordered on all sides by public road right-of-ways, creating a buffer to adjacent properties. The project is also located in an industrial area of the city, buffering the project from residential areas. Berms, landscape screening are proposed around the majority of the perimeter of the site to create additional buffering from the community. Stellantis has an existing engine plant facility near the project site. The project would complement the manufacturing facilities in the area of the city. Number two, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. The significant investment in electric vehicle battery manufacturing planned for the site will likely increase the value of the property adjacent to the site. This will open up more opportunities for additional growth and investment in the city of Kokomo. Number three, the strict application of the terms of this zoning ordinance will result in a practical difficulty. The situation shall not be self-imposed nor be based on a perceived reduction of or restriction of economic gain. The variances requested are based on the size of the project and needs of the owner. Additional information for each of the variances is listed above is detailed below. Number one, due to the nature of the manufacturing requirements for this facility, the building heights need to vary for each process. Some processes require much higher building heights than allowed per ordinance for operational clearances. The buildings will be set much farther from the property lines than ordinance allows, and there are also public road right-of-ways bordering the site on all sides. Number two, since the site is bordered on all sides by public right-of-ways, all sides are front yards. The 8-foot fence height and barbed wire are needed due to security requirements by Samsung SDI for this facility. Number three, due to the significant acreage and size of the industrial buildings on the site, the proposed landscaping strategy has reduced the required number of trees and shrubs per the ordinance formula. Significant berming and landscape treatment of canopy and evergreen trees will screen all loading docks and refuge areas from public view. Perimeter parking field tree plantings has been modified, reduced to support efficient snow loading for clearing and future land-based parking expansion. In lieu of parking field bump outs per the ordinance, significant infiltration swales have been implemented to support the site stormwater strategy, thus providing significantly more natural landscape to the parking areas than required by the ordinance formula. Number 4, due to the significant size of the project, very large detention basins are required. Due to the city's infrastructure depth and size of the basins, permanent water type wet basins are proposed for this development. The basins will have 6-foot depth of permanent water, which will help improve water quality prior to the restricted discharge to the municipal storm sewer system. The basins are planned to be at 1 and 6 side slopes within the permanent water portion of the basin, and the side slopes will be 1 on 4 for the detention storage portion above the permanent water level. The city engineer has approved this design concept. Number 5, due to owner security concerns and the size of the development, providing taller light poles is necessary. The ordinance maximum is 25 feet. A significant number of light poles would be required at that height to provide adequate lighting levels on the site for safety. Due to the proposed site layout, including truck maneuvering lanes and docks, it is not feasible to provide this number of light poles. A more common height of 33 feet, which is 30-foot pole on a 3-foot concrete base, is requested for this use, which would also complement the taller building heights. The lighting will be shielded so as not to affect adjacent properties. As a comparison, the Stellantis engine plant near this site has 40-foot tall lights, 38-foot poles on 2-foot concrete base. Number 6, since the site is bordered on all sides by public road right-of-ways, all sides are front yards. Therefore, the ordinance requirement for 25% max percent of parking located in front of the primary structure is unable to be met, since all of the parking would be located towards a public roadway. Due to the significant size of the site and operational layout needs for the facility, the parking areas need to be located between the buildings and the roadways. Number 7, the entrance and driveway widths need to be wider than ordinance allows due to truck turning movements required for the facility. The maximum driveway width is 40 feet proposed. However, due to the angle of Toby Pike, the width at the right-of-way line will be 62.5 feet. The additional width needed at Toby Pike is due to semi-truck traffic that will be utilizing this entrance. Two-way truck traffic is required, resulting in additional space needed for maneuvering. The other 4 proposed traffic approaches will have 40-foot widths at the back of curb, 36-foot drive width for 3 lanes of traffic.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sheeline?
Yeah, after that, I'm not going to complain about how much I have to read. Mine's considerably shorter. Staff findings, the approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The approval of the 13 requested variances will not cause injury to the community. Several of the variances requested are to promote safety and security. For example, the petitioners are requesting a deeper detention pond in order to keep up with drainage, but the property will be surrounded by an 8-foot fence with barbed wire in order to keep anyone from wandering onto the property. Petitioners are also requesting taller light poles in order to adequately light the parking lots for safety. The requested variances will not allow the petitioner to impede on any property lines or recorded easements, and all will be contained safely on the subject property. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Granting the requested variances will not negatively impact the surrounding properties or their uses. The proposed battery manufacturing plant will infill several currently vacant lots with a state-of-the-art facility and bring many jobs to our community. The property does not actually border on any other properties directly and is surrounded on all sides by right-of-way. The strict application of the terms of this zoning ordinance will result in a practical difficulty. This situation shall not be self-imposed nor be based on a perceived reduction of or restriction of economic gain. The petitioner faces a practical difficulty in the fact that the City of Kokomo zoning ordinance was not written with development plans of this scale in mind. The standards in place make sense for most projects that developed in Kokomo, but a project of this size, scope, and investment level is nearly unheard of within our city. The property is located in a right-of-way on all sides, make it impossible to place parking anywhere but the front yard. While the petitioner has asked for a reduction in landscaping, they will still provide well over 400 trees in order to beautify the property. Due to the size and number of delivery trucks expected to frequent the site, the petitioners need more ample space to create wider entrance drives. If the variances are not granted, the petitioner will lose financially on their created plans for the site and will be unable to meet the needs of Samsung and Stellantis, which may place the project in jeopardy. The staff supports granting the requested variances in order to help this significant project come to fruition.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the board at this time? Is there anyone in the audience wishing to be heard on this case? Anything else, Mr. Shabbat?
I have nothing else.
Anything you'd like to add? Okay, thank you all. We do have a motion and a second for the approval of case P 22-V-22. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Congratulations. Is there any other business to be brought before the board this evening?
I have no other business tonight, Mr. President.
You good?
You good?
Anyone else?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed to that? All right. Have a
Thank you
good
all.
night. Have a wonderful Christmas and New Year and all that good stuff.
Thank you.
All right, thank you all. Again, thank